Antisocial behaviour, in particular deliberate fires, are a major problem for all emergency services this time of year. The consequences of irresponsible behaviour can be tragic for everyone involved. The story you are about to see is a reconstruction of what actually happened to a young person when a day went drastically wrong.
Oh, hi Dan, hi, are you alright? No, I haven't seen him for ages, he's out. He should be back by now though, it's getting on, it's getting late. In fact, what time is it?
Fire and rescue!
Jack here has been arrested on suspicion of criminal damage by fire, and the necessity test for the arrest is for a prompt and effective investigation. You do have certain rights when you're brought into custody. You will be given those rights when we're getting an appropriate adult for you. We've already got your property there, Jack, so what we're going to do is I want you to take your hoodie off. You got a belt on? No, you haven't? Okay. That's great. We're going to put you in the cell, but before you actually get in the cell, because you've got laces in there, we're going to have to ask you to kick your shoes off as well, alright? That's great. You've already been searched. I'm happy you've got nothing else on you. Right, in you go. Hello Mrs Brown, it's about your Jack. He's safe, but I need to make you aware of something. You might have to come in.
Yes, of course, you're alright.
We'll go and get Jack out of the cell now. So Jack, if you just want to come out. Stand in front of your mum. You do have the right to free and independent legal advice for Jack if you so wish. And the other right you have is to read this book called The Codes of Practice, which tells you how you should be treated when you're in police custody. We also have this on some forms, which we'll have here, which we'll also hand you. In relation to Jack being here, before we even interview him, we have the right to take 3 things from Jack. One of those things is fingerprints, the other one is photographs, and the other thing which we can't take for the first time he's been arrested is DNA. In light of what the offence is as well, I would argue that Jack, you're going to have your clothing seized for forensic examination. Just to recap then, you were your friends, you mentioned peer pressure, but you were the one.
Correct, yeah.
Now, from what you've done, what do you think the likely consequence is?
I don't know.
Now, why do you think you're here today?
For putting someone's lives at risk.
Yeah, so what do you think the fireworks caused in the address?
Fire.
Right, okay. Now in relation to that, you can kind of understand how serious this now is, yeah?
I'm just so disappointed that this has happened, and I cannot believe that Jack's done it.
I'm sure. How do you think the person who lives in the house, what do you think they feel?
I'm shocked that it's just happened. Confused, frustrated.
I think the demeanour that you have with me now is an indication that you're clearly upset about what's happened, yeah? Turning the tables somewhat, how would you feel? Was your mum in there, or you and your mum?
Quite upset and angry.
After this police interview, and because the elderly lady who lived in the house was seriously injured as a result of the fire, Jack was charged with arson, reckless as to whether life was endangered. Jack was found guilty and given a 9-month referral order with the youth offending team.
A
referral order is a disposal given at magistrates court the first time a young person appears for first offence. They have to plead guilty to the offence. If it's a situation where they're found guilty after trial, then a referral order can't be given. In Jack's case, the magistrates had a choice between giving Jack a referral order or sending him to custody for a prison sentence. Once Jack had signed his contract for his referral order, he was assigned to me. He had to work with me for 9 months, and he had to work with me once a week. And we had to, part of my role was to deliver the one-to-one work that was outlined in the contract, as well as coordinate any other interventions by, for example, the fire service. And I would say the first few times I met Jack, he was uncomfortable. I think he was very quiet and unsure, really, you know, what was expected of him during the sessions. He was very guarded and closed in the beginning, and he found it very difficult to take responsibility for his actions on the day of the fire. He referred a lot to his friends and blaming his friends for his actions, and that was something that we wanted to address and get Jack to take responsibility for what he did.
As part of his referral order, Jack had to work with the fire service so we could talk about the fire and its consequences. But what became clear very early on in our sessions was that on the night of the fire, Jack wasn't alone. He was actually with a group of friends, and they were there when Jack actually started the fire. However, it also became clear that the reason Jack was arrested so early was because it was his group of friends who had actually given his name to the police. Although Jack's friends were there by his side at the time the fire started, Jack was the one who took all the blame, and he was the only one charged with any offence. This was something Jack found hard to understand and very difficult to accept.
So after Jack appeared in court and was convicted of arson, we had a number of incidents targeted at our house. We had eggs thrown and bricks and all sorts of rubbish thrown against the windows, and we were advised that we needed to move house. The neighbourhood knew that Jack was trouble, and they were starting to make our lives hell, really. Things seemed to be slightly better for a while. We were lucky we got a house in a different district, but we struggled getting Jack into school. Schools just didn't want to take him because they thought he was trouble. I was really starting to get anxious and worried. Jack wasn't behaving himself, and he just wasn't himself all around. It's had a massive impact on the whole family, and to the point that me and my husband just couldn't take the pressure anymore, and we've split up.
Before Jack's education sessions with the fire service began, he actually had to meet and talk with the officer in charge of the fire crews who dealt with the fire, where he was told exactly what the fire crews had to do to rescue and then actually save the lady's life. At this point, the lady involved in the fire didn't want to talk to Jack at all, but was very keen for him to understand and hear how upsetting the incident had been for her and her family. As a result, an interview with the lady was filmed, which was actually shown to Jack and his mother, something that they found very upsetting and very difficult to watch.
Jack was eventually more comfortable talking to me as his yacht worker, and I was able to sort of guide him through this journey that he was going on, and meeting with the fire service in particular was a difficult thing for him to do, and I think it really helped him face up to the reality of what had happened and help him come to terms with it. And I guess, you know, as the referral order progressed, he was able to then finally take personal responsibility for what he did.
My relationship with Jack just isn't what it used to be. I'm struggling sleeping and I'm on medication. I feel like I'm always looking over my shoulder, and I'm sure Jack does as well. After we moved, we thought things might have improved, but the neighbours found out about Jack, and again they're starting to throw things at the windows. And eventually we did find a school that would take Jack with his conviction, but we all haven't been able to step back into an old neighbourhood for fear of what would happen if they recognised him. Jack's very isolated and alone now. He doesn't see his friends, and he doesn't see very much of his dad at all now because of where we live. I'm really worried in case Jack gets involved in the wrong crowd and starts hanging around with the wrong people. And if they find out about what's happened to Jack, they could blame him for all sorts. And if he gets arrested again, I just don't know what will happen to him. If he hadn't have done what he'd done, we wouldn't have had to move house 3 times, or you wouldn't have changed schools for him and his brother. I might even have still been in a really good relationship. And I'm just so worried and frightened for Jack's future.
What is very important to remember here is that Jack never intended to hurt anybody that night when he started the fire. But whether it started off as a joke, a dare, or a way of showing off to his mates, what happened that night cannot be changed. And it has affected not only Jack and the ladies' lives, but also that of both their families.
One of the main outcomes for Jack is his developing understanding of how the offence affected the victim, and he ended up quite concerned about the victim and the health, and that was a great impact. That person nearly died, and Jack eventually came to understand how easily that could have happened as a result of what he did.
So, if you do get in trouble, you're going to have a couple of consequences for your behaviours. The short-term implications are you could get arrested, you're going to get your freedom taken away from you. You're going to have the implications of your family being put out, because one of them is going to have to come to the station to represent you as an appropriate adult due to your age. Be mindful as well that it can have a significant impact on what you do later on in your life as well, what jobs you can do. For example, if you do cause someone that much upset, you've hurt them, in violence offences, you can't work in loads of different jobs working with young people, old people and vulnerable people, people who are at risk. If you get involved with drugs, you can't join the armed forces, emergency services, you can't travel to countries like America or Australia. If you get convicted of a dishonesty offence, you can't work in jobs around money, banks, shops, post offices, and more so nowadays, information technology, details on people, you wouldn't be able to do those jobs because you've got to be a trustworthy person to handle that information. So think about what your consequences are going to be. Short term, you know what's going to happen, put in a cell, your parents or your carers being a bit upset with you. Longer term, the implications for your life, for your jobs, where you work. And of course, if you do live in an area, there's a chance that if people find out you've done something really bad, you may well have to move out. All right.
Jack still finds it really difficult to sleep and constantly worries about the lady, as the fire has left her in very poor health. And despite the fact that Jack has completed his 9-month referral order and now fully accepts responsibility for what he's done, the one wish that Jack still has is that he could turn back the clock. But we all know that that's impossible and it can never happen. And Jack will have to live with the consequences of his actions for the rest of his life.
Jack realised how close he was to going to prison, and he's in no doubt should he repeat, should he commit another offence of this nature, he will go to prison, and it will be for a considerable period of time.
Looking back now, I've realised what I've done and the consequences. The upset and hurt I've put on my family, especially my mum and brother. And I realise how I would have felt if it was my mum that got hurt. I'm sick of moving house, and I've got no friends. I'm all alone, and maybe for the rest of my life. I've now got a criminal record which will stay with me forever. I'm always going to have nightmares about what happened that night. I know the lady who got hurt that night and isn't very well. I'll always be known as the boy who nearly killed someone.